Hey, everybody. Welcome to your Velvet Ashes Legacy podcast. I'm Denise Beck here with Sarah Hilkemann. And very specially this month, we have the entire Velvet Ashes team. Danielle Wheeler's here. Hey, ladies.
Hey, Denise.
Hey, so excited for this conversation.
I am too. It's not actually very often. I'm trying to remember now, you guys, if ever we have all three hopped on like this for a chat.
I don't think so. Danielle, you've been on and we've had a conversation, but I think I was just doing the background stuff. I don't think I was actually on. So yeah, for the three of us to have a conversation, I think this is the first time.
I love it. Actually, so everybody, you get to sit in on what is basically a public Velvet Ashes team meeting. You're welcome. So we're so excited today to be able to join with all of you to talk about something that we love to talk about. Ladies, what are we going to talk about today?
Retreat.
Just
So
fun.
exciting.
Yeah.
For so many women, what I love about this conversation is for so many women, when they hear the word Velvet Ashes, that's what they think. They don't understand that there's lots of other aspects to be a part of Velvet Ashes, but to them, it's like, oh, those are the people that do the retreats, right?
Or that's how they got drawn into Velvet Ashes. You know, maybe a friend or a teammate invited them to do, a retreat together, or that was kind of their introduction, and maybe they've joined in other things since then. But yeah, it's usually the thing that people recognize and know about.
Well, I think also it's like you can grasp what that is, right? I understand what retreat means. And then like to explain our community and other takes a lot more words than just the retreat, right? But okay, so Danielle, we have you with us today. Would you mind just talking about how retreat with Velvet Ashes even got started?
Sure. Yeah. Back when we first started, we started as a place to share stories. That was really the desire, was to have a space where all across the world we could gather and tell each other our stories, and to be heard by other women who were living the same kind of life. And even though we might be in very different contexts, we're living the same kind of story.
Yeah.
And as those stories started flowing, we were noticing themes, patterns among us. And so many of those themes and patterns were connected to exhaustion, burnout, weariness. Like, I'm living this story that I feel God has called me to, but I don't know how to keep doing this because everything just feels like so much. And here I'm doing all of this for God, and yet I'm not feeling close to him. I want to feel close to him. And so as we all started sharing our desires, our needs, our longings, the invitation to retreat emerged. And we felt all of the limitations of that, right? We were spread all across the world. We don't have big budgets. We don't have the funds to, do some retreat together in person. And yet we knew that the Lord had this invitation to retreat for us. And so we experimented and said, what would it look like for us to be able to retreat right where we are? And so we put the invitation out, and at this time there weren't models to follow. There weren't other people doing online retreats. And so it really was just this experiment to say, I don't know if this works or not, but let's try. And so we did, and we put it out there and said, wherever you are, can you take the day, the weekend, a couple of days to just step away and spend time with the Lord? And then can we share about that together so that we have this sense of we're doing it together, because we all have this longing and this desire. And all of us, myself included, walked away from that experience going, oh, the Lord has something for us here. And it was such a rich fulfilling, restoring experience for us that it led to, okay, we want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Sarah, you actually met Velvet Ashes early on with retreats online. Is that right?
I actually heard about Velvet Ashes before the blog went live. So I knew it was coming and was anticipating it. And yeah, the first retreat, at least to my recollection, and maybe Danielle, you can help me, it was in 2015, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
And I had just moved to a pretty isolated area in Cambodia where I was serving. So it was just me and my teammate. I was serving as a single, and she was too, but she was actually dating someone long distance at the time. And so we heard about this idea of the retreat. It just makes me smile now because when I look back at the evolution of the retreat itself, the 2015 retreat is a little different than maybe what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But my teammate and I took a day, and we turned on the air conditioning, which was rare because it was very expensive to run the AC in our little house in this village area. And it also did not drain well. And so when you ran the AC, it like flooded. And so anyway,
Yes.
but we turned on the AC and we kind of split up. And I'm assuming that there was kind of a retreat guide. I can't remember, but there was something that I was kind of working through questions and prompts and just really bearing my soul before the Lord. And to the point that I remember being on our tile floor with my head like to the floor, sobbing because there was all of this that was coming out, that was being drawn out through these prompts and questions. And this, I don't even know if it was part of the retreat itself or if it was just really the way that the Lord was working in my heart, but this invitation to surrender. And I remember one of the things that we had to do was write some things that we were giving to the Lord on a piece of paper and then like destroy the paper somehow or like do something symbolic to show that we were giving it to the Lord. And I burned mine, like set my paper on fire, which I don't know that I would do in other contexts, but it was like, this house is all tile, all, brick, it's fine. I can have a piece of paper on fire. But anyway, that retreat was so significant. And I did not have any kind of rhythm of even really like Sabbath or rest or retreat at all. Like I had not experienced retreat at all in the field and was probably by that point, I was 2 years into life on the field. So it was incredibly significant for me. And, I had already had different connections to Velvet Ashes and was involved in, I think in a connection group, even that at that time. And yeah, but it was just another really special way to go deep with the Lord and with Velvet Ashes.
Danielle, I know like your experience with retreat has changed over the years. So like from inviting people into this idea and having speakers come in to actually writing the retreats yourself. But every year you get away with a group of ladies and you don't do it just by yourself. You do it in community. What is that experience like? And how does Velvet Ashes help that to be a good experience as well?
Yeah, I was thinking recently about just the evolution of retreats with this group, and the group has flexed and changed over the years, but there's been a few of us that we've done this together for all these years now, and yeah, like we've said, the retreat has shifted and changed over the years, but there has always been the invitation to spend time alone with the Lord. And I remember in the early years when I would retreat with these friends, we would get together and we were so excited to be together and just so eager to have this time away and connect with one another that often the times of sharing with one another would just go on and on and on and on and on. And it would actually crowd out the time that was actually meant to be set aside to, have time alone with the Lord. And here I was, the one often, writing the prompts to invite people into this time. And, here I get together with friends, and then we spend most of the time talking to one another. and, and there was a sweetness to, being able to share with one another. But as the years have gone on, and as we have, leaned into that invitation to have that time alone with the Lord, our retreats now, we still do lots of talking, but we have shifted. There is a guarding of that space with the Lord, because we have tasted that there is something we receive from the Lord that we can't give to each other. We have to have that time with the Lord. And then we come together and share what the Lord is stirring in each one of us. And that just like solidifies it even more. And then, we are encouraged by what each person is sharing, what the Lord's doing in each of them. But rather than it being a time where we come together and just kind of dump all our problems and our concerns and all the things we're struggling with, and then that ends up, taking over the whole time, it's now, we come here to be with the Lord. And then we get to share about that with one another. And so because we've tasted the power of that, now we don't let anything crowd out that time with the Lord. And so there is such beauty in being able to do it with a group of people and to experience that in community. And we do try really intentionally to make that very doable. If you've ever hosted a retreat before, there's lots of logistics and pieces to all of that come to that you have to pull together. And we try to do all of that for you and give you a really simple host guide to walk you through, so that you can just send out the invitations, print the retreat guide, push play, and make it a really life-giving rather than life-draining experience for even the host, that they get to feel like they're participating in it as well.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because one of the things I think, as even women around the world are listening to this, is like, I'd love to be a part of that, but I'm not the extroverted one. I'm not the one that like can get everybody rallied and get together. And it's like, there is no personality requirement to download the host guide and to help make this possible. It's so simple. And even what you alluded to before, Danielle and Sarah, just these are two very different ways to experience the retreat. And sometimes you tweak even that to make it your own and to make it what you need. And in every retreat guide, there's like, here's an example of how you could do it this way. And maybe you've got a little bit longer, or maybe you've got a little bit less. Here's some thoughts about how you could do that. And you can also do something totally different. This is the beauty of the online experience, is that you get to just like make it what you want for yourself. But anyone can be a host. Anyone can say, hey, would you do this with me? And we have women in our Velvet Ashes community. I'm thinking of a couple of names that come to mind that are like, oh yeah, I host every single year. I've been doing this for now, put 2 digits together in the number of years that I have been doing this and hosting for Velvet Ashes. And the stories that they have to tell are just amazing. And so I love that about that.
Denise, what about for you? Like what was your experience with retreat? Not necessarily Velvet Ashes, maybe it was, but just having that time away on the field.
Yeah, I think we were with an org that we did one in-person retreat every year. So it's like all the ladies of East Africa, and we all went to the same place, which was really sweet. Like it was a yearly rhythm of going back. And when there was a year that there was issues, I can't remember, I think elections or something, that was like, it's not safe to do that this year. I thought, I'm going to do this for my team, and we're going to do something that I put together. And it was terrible. It was absolutely like not a great experience. The time away was lovely, but it was more, Danielle, even what you mentioned, like we needed time to chat. We needed time to just be together. But like my planning of all of that made it absolutely not something enjoyable or restful. And I was just like, I never want to do that again, at least not with the expectations of I'm going to get something out of this, And I am opposite of Sarah in that I didn't even know about Velvet Ashes while I was on the field. It existed, but I wasn't in that circle. I mean, Asia was like home to Velvet Ashes for a while. It's where like a lot of people were talking about it. I was in East Africa. And so when I got to America and I heard about Velvet Ashes, it was still early. I think it was 2016, maybe retreat number 2. And when I did the first one, I was like, oh, duh, this is what needs to happen. This is what needs to be talked about and available for more women. And it was fantastic. And so I have been just like cheering Velvet Ashes on since then, until even a few years later when I got to come on team here. But yeah, I think what it is one of the best kept secrets. I think what we understand is that there are retreats happening, right? There are, your org might host something, or there are these things that are happening in pockets in person all over the world. And there is something rich about that. We have tasted and seen that that is something special. And that's not possible for everybody every year. And finances are a bigger deal in something like that. And so this to happen, and to happen so well, makes it accessible to every single person serving on the field every single year. And that's what we are committed to bringing. That's what we are committed to keeping costs low for. And we're not saying don't ever do in-person retreats, because we think that's really valuable too. But we hope that this makes it something you can do every year and get the benefit of every year. I wonder, like, there are great things about online. What's hard about online? What would be something to be prepared for that is challenging about saying yes to an online retreat?
I think one of the challenges is figuring out, where do I do this? I
Mm-hmm.
have this retreat content that's all created for me. So where do I do this? And I think it takes some experimenting to figure out what does work and what doesn't work for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, I've done it myself, and I know other women who have retreated in their own homes. And for some, that's a great experience. And for others, it's not so great, because there's all of the distractions
Right.
and, even just like, oh, there's that laundry pile that needs to be taken care of.
Always the laundry.
Yes.
Always.
And so there's just a greater level of distraction that can happen when you retreat in your own home. But I think of the story of a nursing mom who said, it's not possible for me to get away. And so I'm actually gonna take and spread this retreat out. And during my baby's nap times, I'm gonna experience this retreat. And I love
Love
that
that.
there is the
Yeah, I love
flexibility
that.
of that, because if, we all have our different seasons that we're in. And this is the beauty of a flexible online retreat.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the stories of women who, there's unexpected blessings that, like, I don't know where I'm going to retreat. And then the Lord provides an incredible gift. Someone is out of town and they invite you to come, retreat in their home, or, a retreat location that you never even knew about. And somehow it's, within driving distance and you can get there. And then you discover, oh, like, this is something that I could do more often. I could get away to have this time with the Lord. And so, while it is a unique challenge, it's also really amazing to hear, like, oh, this is what the Lord does when we say, I don't know where it's going to happen, Lord, can you provide?
Mhm.
And then he does.
And I love that flexibility of do what you can. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to be this it doesn't have to look the same way for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the opportunity to retreat in my house when I was on the field, and that was a little easier because I was single and so didn't have kiddos, or and could lock the gate, and so didn't have
Mhm.
distraction of people coming. But then I also remember it was like 2 weeks after I had gotten back to the States for home assignment, and it was retreat time. And my sister and I actually did it together because she was also on home assignment, because she and my brother-in-law were also on the field with us. And we did it in the storage area of a bakery in my town. And so we were, upstairs, we could hear the music that was playing downstairs and kind of hear the hubbub of, people coming in and out. And I don't think we were even able to get through all of the retreat, but it was still incredibly sweet. And so it's like you do what you can, and there's so much flexibility, which is one of the cool things about it being online.
Well, I was just going to echo another challenge that I have encountered is maybe it's my personality, but like I'm a serial, like, oh yeah, I want to do that, download it and forget it. Right. And so thinking, oh, I've got it, I bought it, I accessed it. And then you never actually put the date on the calendar to do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, like taking the time to do the other thing besides just purchase and download, but say, no, this is the day. And I think it's harder to put parentheses around that day if you do stay home, because then if somebody's like, oh, this came
Mm-hmm.
up or this, but if you're actually
Right.
removing yourself from your immediate, daily rhythms, then you tend to like stick to that. Right. And we used to, um, release access centered around the dates that as a community we were going to do it together. And there's been a little bit of a shift since our um, monthly rhythms. We release it retreat month, but we still pick dates that we try to help you with. Choose this date. This is the date we're encouraging. And we do that because we know it's really easy to download and forget, but it's almost like we need a reminder email. You've done the big thing. Now the second thing is choose the date right now. Right now, choose the date. Put it on your calendar. Retreat with us. We would love that. But yeah, I don't know. That's something that's more of a challenge for this online content, is actually making it happen, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's one of the sweet aspects of doing it as a group is that then there is that date on the calendar,
Right.
and there are people who wouldn't ever set aside that time unless they were invited to do
Mm-hmm.
that. And so once you get the invitation to participate in something like that, and rather than setting it aside for yourself, then you're like, oh, that was really sweet, and I could do this on my own as well. Because once you
Mm-hmm.
taste the nourishing that the Lord gives you in that time, then there's the motivation to then make that happen. But yeah, you're right, Denise. It is really sweet to actually have a weekend still set aside, because there's just a lot more interaction in the comments, and women sharing
Mm-hmm.
and getting to have that sense of, yeah, we are doing this together, even in the same time. And we've put the question out there, like, does anybody want us to have like live, for this to be live? And the resounding response has been, no, please keep it where it's all pre-recorded, so that we
Right.
can keep it flexible, so that we
Yes.
can do it in our own schedule, because we're in all different time zones across the
Yeah.
world, and we have all different rhythms and schedules, and so we highly value keeping it flexible for you.
You do mention some of the things that have changed over the years, and I would love to just talk about those, because they aren't just like, oh, we're just changing on a whim. It's like these changes have been intentional. And one of those has been, early on, the retreat testimonies are just everybody's fave. I mean, of course, because we get peeks into other women who are just like us and get encouragement from their story. And early on, they were shorter, there were more of them, and we have moved to fewer, deeper testimonies. Do you want to talk a little bit about that
Mm-hmm.
progression?
Sure. Well, to be totally real, the year that we released the most testimony videos in one retreat was the year that I thought I was in the States, and I thought, I'm only here for a year. So everybody that I know that could do a story, we got to do it this year. And because I'm going back to Asia, and I don't know when I'll ever have the opportunity to, gather these ladies' stories again. So you all know real life. And so that was a year we just, asked several women to share their stories. And then the Lord's plans are always surprising, right? I ended up staying in the States, and there continue to be lots of women's stories that we wanted to share. But we did feel the invitation to be able to have the space to go deeper, to not get just a short glimpse into someone's life, but to really have the space to go deep, and to not just skim the highlight points, but to really taste the depth of their stories. And so that's been a real joy to experience that. We have an incredible videographer who he holds each woman's story so sacredly. Because he realizes the impact that they have and the weight that they carry for each of these women, and really it's his form of art, his creative offering for the kingdom, to be able to offer these ladies stories. And so, yeah, each one really is just an incredible treasure.
Yeah. I even think back to each of them, of all of the stories that we've told, they all hold a really different, meaningful thing
Mm-hmm.
from, husband being in, I'm thinking about Africa and the one where he was like attacked in his home, but the lock, jammed.
Yeah.
And then there was, I've wrestled with suicide. There was, I have significant health issues and I'm choosing to stay on the field. It was great loss in my family. And what does it look like? I mean, it's like every single one has this really deep, different way that we can connect with each other. And they're so powerful. And it's so interesting to me, even as I think about last year when we were in person in Italy, and we do show these testimonies there when we work. And I had forgotten to pre-download
Mm.
the one for last year, but I had it from the previous time we were in person. And so I was like, let's show this one while we download. And that was how the Lord used it to meet the needs in some of these women's lives. Like, I love
Mm-hmm.
how the testimonies themselves is a tool for how God can meet you where you are. There's so many different avenues for that.
Well, and I feel like it so connects with what Danielle you were saying with the very beginning of Velvet Ashes, a place to tell and share our stories, and this sort of like, let's link arms together as sisters, we're in this together sort of feeling. And that's what I feel when I see those testimonies. And I remember seeing them on the field and just feeling so less alone, I guess. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm not the only one that thinks this. Or, like other people have struggled, or, and some of them, like, yeah, maybe I have not had those exact experiences, but there's something that I connect to in their story. And so it just feels like that opportunity of, not only do we get like really solid teaching and opportunities to connect with the Lord, but also this sweet sharing of one another's stories. It feels like it so resonates with that heart of Velvet Ashes.
One of the ways of connecting, not just through stories, has also changed through the years. Of like, we used to be this like Facebook community, and during retreat, people could connect online on Facebook and you could share your retreat experience. And since then, we have an app and we have a membership site and we have new ways that the retreat actually shows up on your screen. And I love the ways that we can connect now have to do with, even for each section of the retreat, you can show up in the comments of a video, of a project, of different things, and interact with how other women interacted with that particular thing. I don't know, do either of
Mm-hmm.
you ladies want to comment on this new way of connecting that we have, even new ways with the retreat we're getting ready to release?
I think it really reflects our heart for women to feel safe and
Mm-hmm.
secure.
Yeah.
And so we want that to be a space where, not anyone on the internet is going to be able
Yeah.
to see, and that you feel the safety and security of that. So that means a lot to me that we have that offering.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think social media has just changed so much. I mean, I
Yeah.
think about where where social media was in 2015, and how it has ebbed and flowed, and just what it's like right now. And yeah, so I love that we have, not only as an intentional community, through the app and through some of the ways that people can connect, through our membership in that way, but just kind of getting off of social media, and offering a different place for people.
Some of the ways that people can look forward to connecting and feeling a part of community in this retreat would have, if you wanted to, you can do the whole retreat on your app. on your phone. It's a smaller screen, but there is going to be a retreat chat group, right? So if you want to ask questions and connect with other women, you can do that through there. If you would like to connect with them over Danielle's teaching in session 1, you can see how did that hit you, and the chat drops down from beneath that session, and you can ask Danielle questions, and you can ask other women who are commenting about what they got out of it, and you can actually interact with each other there. There's so many different ways that you can be a part of this live in real time as women are doing the retreat. Another really cool way that we have this year that we're getting ready to release to everyone is there's a map you can check in on. So in your retreat goodie bag this year, there's a map, and you can log in, you can put your pin down, and you can look and see where in the world are all of these other comments coming from. And there's an opportunity to put your picture and put a little note in there if you want to kind of get this global feel. I'm so excited about that opportunity this time as well, to just get really a glimpse of, oh my goodness, this global thing that's happening. Mm-hmm. Another thing is we've got this word cloud that we're doing this year. Danielle, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So one of the important rhythms of retreat is being able to acknowledge how you're arriving into retreat. Some of you will come really excited and anticipatory, and others of you will come totally worn out and kind of crashing into retreat. And we just are giving the space to name how we're arriving. And we're really excited to have this visual way to represent how you are arriving. So you'll get to spend some time just checking in with yourself, saying, Lord, how am I arriving to this time of retreat? See what words come up for you. And then you'll get to put those words in, and a visual word cloud is going to be created with all of our words. And so if lots of people are using the same word, that word is going to be bigger. And so you'll get this really unique representation of how everyone's arriving into retreat. And that's something we've never offered before. So we're excited to see, just that visual image, and then just kind of offering it as we offer ourselves to the Lord and entrust ourselves to His care and for what He has for each of us in the retreat.
As we talk about timing too, these two elements that we just mentioned, the word cloud and the map, they are going to be kind of like a moment in time type of thing. So they aren't going to be something that if you access this retreat 2 years from now, you're not going to get to participate in that. This is going to be live for a certain amount of time for this group, for this retreat. And so if you're accessing this 2 years from now, you're going to get to see the visual timestamp as we put an image up that says, this is what was being felt at that time that this retreat went live. So if you want to interact with the live element and be a part of the timestamp for this retreat, if you will, it's important that you do set that date and do it and get the retreat on your calendar during retreat month, and make plans to do that with us. Those are just really special elements that we feel contributes to this community feel of doing it live as live as possible together, right? Mm-hmm. Danielle, let's talk about this retreat. Talk about the theme. Talk about where you feel like the Lord was inviting you to journey with women in 2026.
Yeah. So as a spiritual director, I get to sit one-on-one with lots of women who are all over the world. And as I lead retreats for Velvet Ashes, as I lead spiritual practices, one of the most common, frequent questions that I receive is, how can I know God's voice? I long to know God's voice, but how do I discern whether this is God's voice or a random thought in my head? And there's just such a desire to have God personally communicate to us. And there's also a lot of fear and confusion around what that even means, right? We all know of instances where people have said, well, God told me, and then there was essentially abuse that occurred because of that. And so we feel very tentative, very leery on, what does it even mean to hear God's voice? And so this retreat really walks through what does the Lord teach us in his word about hearing his voice? Can we hear his voice? And then it provides space for us to sift through what are the things that come up for us that are not his voice, and how can we discern that, and what is it that God so wants to communicate to each one of us. And it gives space to slow down so that the distractions can fall away, and we can learn his voice more clearly, more deeply. And so this retreat really holds a special place in my heart, because I think once the Lord tends to some of those fears, those concerns, those confusions around his voice, it unlocks so much more for each of our relationships with the Lord, and where he wants to grow us, and the fullness that he's inviting us all into.
Mm. And the imagery for this retreat is simply lovely. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So we have the ocean as our imagery, and there are so many different facets of listening and God's voice, and just that journey of going deep with the Lord. And so, yeah, the imagery has been really sweet to sit with, and to see what the Lord wants to unfold for us with his creation. Right, he speaks, he reveals himself through creation. And so we've got some beautiful worship music, and with that we have the sound of the ocean, the
Mm.
waves, and yeah, we've got an art print for you that comes from ocean imagery that is really significant symbolism there. So lots of facets of the ocean that you'll find tied into this retreat.
One of the cool things about this particular retreat is we filmed the testimony video and the retreat teaching video in the same place. And so we got to be on location both times to film. Unfortunately, not at the beach, but
It was actually like a block away from a Walmart parking lot,
it's
which is like
true.
the opposite of the beach.
It's true. I had to fly. Whenever I flew in for this, though, I had brought in my luggage 2 conch shells, actually more than that, for the filming of it. And I'm just sitting there thinking, as I'm checking, and they're looking at my luggage through the camera, I'm like, what are these TSA people thinking as they stare into my suitcase with these huge conch shells? But yes, a friend of mine who loves the ocean and travels all over the world has this massive collection, and I was like, can we borrow some of these for filming? So
that's fun.
So that was fun. But the first time before we filmed content, we did get to film our retreat testimony for this year. And the story this year Jen shares is just such a gift, such an insight into a really tender moment with her.
Yeah, in many ways the story represents like every global worker's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And what it is to walk in that. And, she was facing trial and prison time. And so I think there's such a power in being able to like chase our worst fear to its end and say, what then, Lord? What then? And so we get to see like Jen live that out, and just watch her interaction with the Lord through that. And it's, so inspiring, so encouraged, so real and raw and vulnerable. It really is such a gift that she's given to us.
A gift on a couple of levels, because I feel like the story itself is a gift, but her situation and the security around it was also something to take into account. And so the fact that she's like, I care about this community enough that I want them to have this gift, so we guard her full name and her story, her face when we do public, promotion for this retreat, because that is something that is still a factor. Like she wants to still be able to have an impact in ministry in places that many of you listening to this understand. The dance you play with being secure and having an impact when you need it. And so we're so grateful for women who decide to trust us with that moment because of how much they care about you and wanting the community to have access and encouragement from everything the Lord has taken them through. So we're really excited for you guys to get to meet Jen and to get an insight into her story with that. This year, when we do retreat, Sarah, it's the first year we have had our different tiers of invitation. So we've got the friends, which is free for everybody, right? Anyone right now can download the Velvet Ashes app and be a friend of Velvet Ashes. With that, you get a text group with women all over the world where you can ask your questions, and you get access to our blog and our podcast and all of that. But we also have these two other levels for people who are like, we want to be a little bit more intentional about community with Velvet Ashes. And so with Circle and Inner Circle, there are different elements even of retreat that are impacted. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So you may have seen us talking about these different sort of tiers, these levels of community and connection. And the membership community has been a thing for several years now. And we've continued to listen to what people are saying and really wanting to just make sort of these different levels. I don't like that description necessarily, but these different ways of connecting a little bit more clear for people. And so, yeah, I love that we have these different opportunities for people to dig in as much as they would like. So the circle level, you are able to connect in some different groups. We've got a group for singles, for moms, for prayer, other ways for people to, you can ask questions and go deep in those groups. Our monthly content, our spiritual formation, and our book club are also part of that circle. But then you can also pick and choose the things that you want to add to your membership experience. So the retreats are not part of that level, but if you're like, oh, hearing Danielle talk about this year's retreat sounds so amazing, I want to grab that one. You can add that to your library, and it will be there, and you can do it. You can do it through the app. You can do it on your computer or whatever, but it gives you a lot of freedom to add the things that you want to add, in addition to, sort of the rhythms of monthly content. But then the Inner Circle is for those who are like, I kind of want to just jump all in. I want everything that Velvet Ashes gives to me. And so the retreats are included in that Inner Circle. And you also get access to the library of past retreats. So Denise, you were mentioning the 2016 retreat was maybe kind of your introduction to Velvet Ashes retreats. And so that one is in that library. If you want to go back 10 years and see what retreats used to be like, you can do that. So yeah, it's just an invitation to go even deeper.
I was calculating the other day, we have 72 different experiences, retreats, webinars, conferences that are available to you if you are part of the Inner Circle level. That's just so many things in your library that you could choose to do. But what I love about Circle and Inner Circle is the content that we will be putting out for the month that you have access to build on your retreat experience. Our theme for that month has to do with the retreat. The different things we'll be bringing to you will kind of make it really retreat month instead of retreat weekend. And so you get a little bit more, a little bit deeper invitation at the Circle and Inner Circle level. Is it an absolute perfect package if you just do the retreat and don't connect at that level? Absolutely. But if you're interested in a little bit more on ramp and off ramp from retreat, you might find that is just what you need if you're part of the Circle and Inner Circle level. So just love to invite you into considering jumping in a little bit deeper with us, for sure. But guys, anything else you think would be fun to talk about as we invite women who maybe don't know Velvet Ashes maybe this is their introduction to considering joining us for this retreat.
I was wondering if either of you have a funny story from a retreat that you've done. I was thinking about how, retreats can be so deep and which is amazing, but sometimes we need that moment of light and laughter. And so I was just curious if you had any funny stories that come to mind.
Denise, do you know, can you read my mind and know what story I'm thinking of right now? I I am thinking of, I did a retreat by myself once, and I, now you know, right?
I know now. Honestly, I had 2 or 3. I wondered where you were going to go with this. So, yes.
Yes. So I did this retreat by myself, and this was actually, I retreated at a space that was belongs to a relative of Denise's that very generously let me use this space. And it's kind of out there, not a lot of civilization around at all.
Yeah,
And
Google Maps does not know where this place is. So,
right.
yeah.
So I go out there all by myself, and I was really excited. I got there kind of in the evening. So brought my stuff in, was just like, went straight into my pajamas, took my bra off, and was like, oh, I'm, going to wash my face, and realized the water wasn't turned on. And I was like, oh yeah, they told me how to turn the water on. So I left the cabin, went out to turn the water on. And when I came back, the door was locked. I had just locked myself out of this cabin.
Like an hour from the people that have the keys. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And I thankfully had brought my phone to use as a flashlight, but and I had thrown a coat on, which is an important detail you ladies will understand. Yes. So I had a coat and I had a phone. Thankfully, we were able to get a hold of a neighbor who drove over, but they didn't have the key. So I still had to wait a good hour. But for a while there, I was beginning to think I might have to sleep on this deck.
Oh my goodness.
I still remember getting that call about you getting locked out and thinking, oh my word, I have never even gone to stay out there by myself. I'm a chicken. So, did you have soap on your face?
Yeah, I totally had soap on my face.
Oh my gosh. So funny. Because I didn't do online retreat experience really on the field. The thing that comes to my mind is one of my teammate is also a very big Velvet Ashes fan and has been a part of Velvet Ashes for a while. But before we were Velvet Ashes people, we went to this in-person retreat that we were talking about. And we had to drive. All my East Africa ladies, you get it. The roads are terrible. And we had borrowed, we were driving together. I think it was actually her husband, their family's truck. And the roads were so bad that I jiggled both headlights out of the front of the car. And so we have such a funny picture of us standing outside, not even to the retreat yet, holding the headlights to the truck going, what do we do? Like we don't know how to put these back in. So we just throw the headlights in the truck and just keep going, to be able to get out to this retreat. But it was the things that you do to even arrive at retreat sometimes are so much so that when you get there, you're just already, this has been almost a traumatic experience just to be here today. But yes. I remember, Danielle, you had this idea of, I don't even remember if we ended up using it, but an icebreaker game that's tell your poop story. Do you remember that? Yes. And I'm no way everybody has one of those. And you're no, everybody has or knows of a poop story. Yes. I was there is no way. And then you've done it in person before.
Yeah, it was actually from an in-person retreat that brought the inspiration because somebody initiated the telling of poop stories, and I was this is crazy that nobody's going to want to do this. And then everyone had a poop story to share, and it was incredibly bonding. When you share poop stories, you are bonded for life.
It's so true because you have dirt on people. It's I know your story, so don't mess with me, right?
Yes, and global workers, their poop stories are next level.
That is true.
So true. Sarah, what about you? Do you have anything funny that comes to mind?
Oh, yeah. So I think this was the 2016 retreat, and my teammate and I were doing the movement portion together. And it was a very like slow and sort of holy sort of focus. And the person who was leading the movement video was talking about, I don't know, the different ways that we could do these different movements. And she was saying, Kristen might do it a certain way. And that's my teammate's name. And so we looked at each other, we're like, oh, that's funny. And then she's like, and Sarah might do it a certain way. And we just looked at each other like, what?
Oh my word.
Like, did you? And we kind of were like, are we like hearing, like, is God speaking to us through this video? Like, are we just hearing our names and this is not what's actually in the video? And we like looked at each other like, what is happening? And then we just started laughing. And we like died laughing. We had to push pause and we're just like, what in the world is going on?
That was some special magic that year. Everyone that watched it heard their own name, Sarah.
Well, that's what we were like,
special.
yeah, what is going on? So I did go back I think even last year, and I was like, okay, I'm curious. Are those actually the names that she used? But I think they were she had like two ladies behind her who were also doing it. And I think that they happened to be named Sarah and Kristen. So she was talking about them. But yeah, we just died laughing, and it was so good for us. Like our hearts needed that.
You needed the laugh.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it so much. I'm so excited about the stories that we're going to have coming out of this retreat. And I hope if you're considering doing this and you want to invite other women along, share this podcast with them. This is a great way to help answer any of those questions about what does it look like to retreat with Velvet Ashes? Would this be something we wanted to do? What a great easy first step to just invite somebody into this. Registration is open right now, and retreat month is April. That means access to the retreat begins April 1st. You can download everything. We do that because we know that you need to be flexible about when you do retreat. So we want to give you access, but we have designated the last weekend in April as community retreat month. That's when we're encouraging you. If all other weekends in April are the same, choose this one and retreat with us. During April, this team will be in Italy doing this retreat with women in person. So we are just so excited about all the aspects we have for retreat coming up with Velvet Ashes as well. Any last minute goodbyes you guys want to share with our community?
I think I would just say that I think that often we view retreat as like a luxury, like a spiritual luxury. And global worker women are the queens of living without luxury, right? You know what it is to give things up. But I wonder if we can hear the Lord's invitation to us that this is not a luxury. This is something God's inviting us to, a rhythm that He's inviting us to of being able to spend extended time with Him. I was thinking about how in Scripture, nowhere does it say like mandate having a daily time, a quiet time, right? Nowhere is that mandated, because if it did, we'd get all legalistic about it, right? But we know that having daily time with the Lord nourishes our soul. And so we want to prioritize that. And what if we viewed retreat with that same lens, that this nourishes our life with the Lord? And so what if we didn't view it as a luxury, but an invitation that God's extending to us? So if I know all of the excuses that come up for all of us, it's hard to set aside time, but my hope and my prayer is that we would all hear the Lord's invitation to us and say yes to Him.
Yeah, love that.
I was talking to a woman this morning who said, I would have never considered retreat if you didn't invite me. And so would you consider this your personal invitation for us to do retreat? And we already know that the Lord is inviting you there. We have tasted and seen what this retreat has, and we're very excited for you to get to do the same. And as always, we want to thank Barnabas International for making this podcast possible, allowing us to sit here and chat with you and invite you into more. We know that they care about global workers as well, just as much as we do. So thanks, ladies. Thanks for joining us today. And we look forward to being with you next month on the Velvet Ashes Legacy podcast.
Every voice part of the symphony, a hallowed polyphony, the messy middle mystery, the legacy of mercy bearing.